Hey gorgeous seekers, and welcome to our moon magic discussion for this annular solar eclipse in Gemini on June 10th. As many of you know, I'm reclaiming this season of Mercury retrograde and eclipses as a time for healing, as a time for nurturing, as a time for deep self-trust, to break the cycle of drama, of pain, of trauma that often is, I think, replicated when we talk about transits like when we talk about seasons like this. We tend to have a lot of messaging coming at us that tells us that we need to be stressed and scared, that we need to be doing hard, deep work, that we need to be making sure we're being vigilant, we're watching out for ourselves, to be sure to be clear that we're going to be confused and we're not going to be able to tell our own minds, and we're not going to be able to tell what we need or what we want during these weeks. I just want to shatter all of that right now, right here. As you know, I reclaimed that Sagittarius full moon lunar eclipse for all of us, and I'm doing the same here with the Gemini eclipse. These eclipses go together. This is the second in the pair, so this is the kind of restart eclipse. The solar eclipse is a time to really notice how we've changed and grown, and it goes hand in hand with the Sagittarius eclipse because these energies, the Sagittarius Gemini energies, have so much to do with our storytelling, our macro storytelling, the way we tell stories about the way we view the world, like our philosophy of the world, the way we move in that bigger picture. And the Gemini energy is how we tell our little stories every day, how we replicate the stories, and what I call, and what a lot of people use this term, the master story. You know, it's kind of the curated master story that we tell ourselves over and over again, and the one that affects our life. So this eclipse is going to have us looking deeply at those themes. And what I'm going to be doing here today is really giving us a lens through which to enjoy this eclipse, to feel safe in this eclipse, to help us step away from drama and repetition and anger and paranoia, any of those themes that may be coming up, and bring us back to a place of healthy, loving, nurturing storytelling that brings our mind more into harmony with our soul and harnesses the mind more in that direction rather than letting the mind run rampant and free, right? So those are the themes that we're going to be working with here. Let's get into it. So this annular solar eclipse is happening on June 10th. It's going to be visible in the very northern tip of the globe. So most of us are not going to be seeing any action on this one, but energetically we can still play with this, right, and incorporate what is coming up. So one thing I want to say before I get started is, we had the last eclipse, lunar eclipse in Gemini 6 months ago. So it's a really fun place here to kind of review and give yourself credit for how much you have grown. You can look at the themes that were coming up for you in that last eclipse in Gemini, the last eclipse season in general. Look at the notes, look at, where you were struggling, what unknowns you were dealing with, and give yourself some credit for being here now with this eclipse. Also, let's talk about this. So Sun and Moon are at 19 degrees of Gemini, creating that new moon, that solar eclipse. They're conjunct Mercury retrograde at 20 degrees of Gemini. So these three are all working together. And when you have this like triumvirate of energies, this is going to be a really introspective, reflective combo. This is a time to review that master story and notice the stories we're telling ourselves. It's a great time to just kind of comb through and notice where we may still be telling stories. I have one that has to do with authority figures and getting in trouble that I am still working with to this day, that, comes up all the time. And everybody's going to have their own versions of those stories. Maybe that they see themselves as weak, or maybe that they see themselves as, unworthy or not good at a certain thing, or unable to make swift changes. Whatever the storyline is going to be, this conjunction and this time of reflection during an eclipse where we are shaking off the dust of any storytelling that is not serving us, that is not our true selves. This is a great time to just do that. This conjunction with Mercury retrograde, this eclipse moment that we're having on June 10th, is also just a time to witness our minds and notice that it does not have control over us. So it's all just introspective, shaking loose, shaking free of anything that's not serving us anymore. And I think too, it's important when I think about the last year and a half, we have like our master story, and a lot of that master story is from when we're younger, when we're little kids or teens, you know, when we're in a place where we are learning about the world and soaking up all this information. But we can also create painful stories for ourselves during times of trauma or deep stress or cultural upheaval like we've been going through. Even if you're somebody who's been riding those waves pretty well, there's still been a lot of change. We can come up with new stories about how we don't deal well with stress anymore, how we have changed or morphed that we want to look at as well during this eclipse. So all of that's going to be in play here. Now, this eclipse is also squaring Neptune at 23 degrees of Pisces, and there's a lot of messaging that comes up with a square like this, like Mercury retrograde and eclipse squaring off against Neptune in Pisces. That's going to say that this is confusing, that this is the kind of square that's going to make it hard to tell what's true, that you're going to get confused, that you're not going to know how to express yourself, that you're not going to know how to connect with somebody, that you're going to be paranoid, that you're going to not know how to come to answers. But I see this very differently. This square, you know, Neptune in Pisces is about the dreaminess. It's about the oneness consciousness. It's about kind of coming out of the rational-minded to-do list, pros and cons, control center, and a lot more to do with surrender. Of course, the shadow side to that is we can, you know, get into other weird patterns around our dreaming and our fantasy. However, this square is asking us to surrender a little bit more to our deeper knowing, to our deeper truth. You know, where we get confused and lost actually is not in listening to our soul song. It's not to listening to that deeper wisdom. It's not, we don't get confused when we just say, you know what, I just surrender, I ask for guidance. I know I don't know it all, but I'm going to ask for guidance, and I'm also going to just trust myself more. That is clear and simple. We get lost, we get confused, we get in our head, we go in circles when we let the mind take over, right? And you know, these are just such classic things. We talk about it all the time. It comes up time and again. I'm far from the only person who ever talks about this, right? It comes up all the time. But when we let the mind be in control, right, this is where we start making those pros and cons lists. This is where we start delineating our value based on how much we're getting that to-do list done, how much we've accomplished, how much we haven't accomplished yet. This is where we let the master story run our world. That's when we get confused. That's when we start to make choices based on people pleasing. That's when we make choices based on not wanting to disappoint other people. That's when we make choices that are based on other people telling us their own fears and projecting their own fears about where we're taking steps in our lives, right? That's where we get confused. We're not actually confused about what we truly want. And I think that's something that I really want to emphasize here. So often in astrology, you get messages around, this is going to be a really confusing transit. You're not going to know what to do. And I find that so disempowering, and it doesn't give respect to the wisdom that we hold, that each of us is allowed to access at any time, and that isn't stripped away because of an eclipse. It can even be amplified because we're taking that time to really listen and witness ourselves. And I think that's what that square and this eclipse in general is giving us the breath to do. It's giving us the chance to actually trust ourselves more, to notice when our mind is running in circles, to listen to our deeper wisdom, and to have that deeper wisdom and our minds be more in alignment with each other, so that they're working together as a team, so that our mind can be a part, can be in on the inside job. Our mind can be a fun collaborator in the way that we are constructing our life moving forward. You know, Gabby Bernstein has said in one of her books, there's a sneaky story that comes with a lot of our storytelling, and it's kind of so ingrained and interwoven for so many of us, and I'm not speaking for everyone. And I just wanted to read this short quote from her, which is, there is a story that pain has purpose. We live in a world that supports drama, terror, separation, and hardship. We've been guided to believe that without pain, we have not accomplished or achieved. Pain does not equal purpose. Your purpose is to live with ease. Your purpose is to surrender to the love of the universe so you can live a happy life. And some of you out there, your inner cynic is already like hand up wanting to say something, right? And just hearing your purpose is to live with ease. But that story, that pain has purpose, that we need to be pretzeling ourselves into every single position to make it all happen all the time, and that being purpose, is false. That's where we get confused. We don't get confused when we're listening deep to ourselves. We're trusting ourselves. We're taking a moment to breathe, and we're taking a moment to question the master story that we have told about ourselves, and letting go of anything that is giving us pain. There are going to be parts of our master story that feel great, that are empowering, that are beautiful, that are good. But there's going to be parts of our master story that we are carrying around with us that just do not feel good. And this eclipse is just such a wonderful time to write down those aspects of the master story, the way we talk about ourselves, the way we mythologize ourselves. Is it working for us or not? And the ones that aren't working for us, we are allowed to rewrite and change. We are allowed to do that at any time. It's your choice if you want to do that or not. There's one final aspect going on during this eclipse that I want to bring up, because I think I'm talking a lot about introspection, review, getting honest with the way we're talking to ourselves, the way we're talking about ourselves from within and also to others, because we'll often, replicate the way we're talking to ourselves to others when we're having a talk with people about, where we're struggling or where we feel we don't have talent or ability or what have you, right? So we're doing a lot of introspection there, but there's another part to this eclipse that I think is so important. And that is being open-minded to who we're becoming, being open-minded to where the path is taking us next. And that is getting amplified by Uranus at 12 degrees of Taurus squaring Saturn at 13 degrees of Aquarius. This square, not only does it bring about like new ideas, new ways of seeing, new ways of maybe implementing life, but it also challenges us to look at what actions we truly want to take in life, who we really want to be, where we really want to put our energy. And I think with those combined, it's like, keep your mind open to yourself. Keep your mind open to who you're becoming. You may have kind of a set way you're seeing what you want to accomplish the next 6 months, or a set way you feel like you have to keep doing the same thing because you said 6 months ago, this is what I need to do. You may find that you're having surprises during this eclipse from within. The call is coming from inside the house. You may have surprising revelations about things that you actually want to do, projects you actually want to do, shifts you want to make. And we don't want to shut down those creative impulses that may be coming through during this eclipse. We want to keep our minds open to ourselves. It's funny, we always think about we need to keep our mind open to other people and, keep an open mind and heart to like what they may be going through, and be empathetic to others about, how they're changing or struggling, and to do all of that work. But we also need to do that to ourselves, to be open-minded to ourselves, to be open-minded to our soul song and how it's asking us to make different steps. I think this is a really fun and exciting aspect of this eclipse, because I think we need some visionary energy, right? We need some more of that play and that fun. And when we get the master story narratives out of the way, we write them down on a piece of paper, we notice what they are, we notice that they don't necessarily have to be this absolute truth about who we are. We get those out on the paper, we get those said out loud, we notice that they're not an absolute truth, and then we hear what it is that is coming in next for us. This can be such a visionary time to reopen our hearts, reopen our energetic field to really positive, beautiful things happening. And it's important that we spend time there. I would say, one thing to keep in mind is just really honor yourself with where you're getting hooked into any kind of drama or pain. During this time, we're very porous and open beings during this time. And I think we want to just respect ourselves and take care of ourselves. And there's no need that we need to be plugging into drama. The Empress came out. And the bottom of the deck is the Page of Wands. I love that. Yes, the Empress is all about self-mothering. Self-mothering, honoring the self, honoring the creative process. She is the emblem, the icon of life in ease, creativity in ease, abundance in ease. And I love to set the challenge for myself, and I often forget. I have to remember that this is like a life challenge that I've been on working with for over 2 years, is how easy can it be? How beautiful can it be? How supportive can it be? How much beauty can happen in my day, in my week, even in challenging things? Just asking that is powerful. And the Empress is reminding us this is not an eclipse for strife. This is not an eclipse to hook back into painful dramas, to stress ourselves out, to feel that we need to dive into the depths of the worst parts of ourselves or to torture ourselves. This is a time to be easy with ourselves, to practice how we can use our thoughts to be easy with ourselves, that this can be a time of great healing, great love, great kindness to ourselves, and also great innovation. The Page of Wands is an innovator. He just gets in there and tries things. He has the energy of the beginner, and in some ways I find that his energy is very much like the Fool energy, but with maybe a little bit more pomp and pride and a little bit more like swagger maybe. But the Page of Wands is an innovator and is just trying things out, initiating things, going out there, sparking a light in the world. New pathways are opening up during this eclipse. And the more that we relax, the more that we can observe our mind, we can release those master stories, but the important thing here is to relax, is to feel safe, is to practice those thoughts around feeling safe, around feeling cared for, around feeling provided for, around feeling that we can heal ourselves, to really focus in on that. The more we're going to see clearly, the easier it's going to be to just see and know what you need to know. And there's no reason that needs to involve torturing ourselves. Right? But this is a season of introspection, and it is a season to witness our minds and to be really clear about how we're using our minds to tell our story. So that is a theme, and it's a really powerful practice, one we can take with us through the whole year. And anything I've talked about here today is something that we can take with us any time of the year. There is no pressure to do this eclipse a certain way. There is no pressure to experience this eclipse in a certain way. There is no pressure to make yourself feel any one way during this time. I just want to remind you of that. We are going to be doing a gorgeous activation for this new moon annular solar eclipse over on my Patreon, as well as I will be offering up plenty of worksheets and places to offer up support to you. It's a really safe, beautiful community. I'd love to see you there. You can also find me on my website and my Instagram, and you can find PinkLune's jewelry on her Etsy shop. I love you guys. I will see you so soon for more moon magic and chats ahead. Let me know how this eclipse is treating you. Sending you my love.